The world often operates by appearances and emotions, while the Word of God judges by truth and righteousness. In many cases, society and even the church can become unbalanced in their sympathies, condemning one sinner while excusing another, forgetting that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Romans chapter 3:23. If a man abuses his wife physically, emotionally, and psychologically, both the world and the church rightly condemn such behavior. Yet when the roles are reversed, society often minimizes his suffering or blames him for provoking it. This double standard reveals how far human judgment can drift from divine justice. Most people in the world and in the church will still support her as if she is the victim and she can never sin. Google search Domestic Violence Against Men by Wikipedia. Also research The Impact of Domestic Abuse on Male Victim Survivors, published by Domestic Abuse Alliance. And Unreported, An Insight into Male Victims of Domestic Violence by 150 Higgs co.uk. Here's what the research has discovered. Domestic abuse against men is significantly underreported due to intense societal stigma, fear of not being believed, shame about violating gender norms, being seen as weak, and concerns about ridicule or being dismissed by authorities, with studies showing a large majority of male victims never disclosing their abuse to anyone, often citing fear of being seen as unmanly as a primary barrier. Why it goes unreported: societal stigma. Traditional views of masculinity pressure men to be strong and self-reliant, making it hard to admit vulnerability. Fear of disbelief. Men worry police or others will assume they are the perpetrator or that the female partner was self-defending. Embarrassment. Disclosure risks being labelled weak, unmanly, or ridiculed, leading to silence. Lack of services. Historically, there's been a scarcity of support services tailored to male victims. Statistics on underreporting. Many male victims never tell anyone about the abuse, with some studies finding over half haven't spoken to anyone. Only a small percentage, under 20%, report to police or health professionals, often due to fear of ridicule or disbelief. Types of abuse men face. It includes physical, psychological, sexual, and financial abuse, as well as coercive control, isolation, and threats. Impact on male victims. Male victims suffer significant emotional and psychological harm, leading to feelings of isolation and even suicidal thoughts, with some studies showing high rates of suicide ideation linked to abuse. As BBC reported in November 2024, half of male victims do not report domestic abuse. More than 70% of the men interviewed by researchers said they had considered suicide, and the majority had experienced depression or anxiety. The report also said there is a pressing need to provide support to victims who do come forward and efforts made to tackle stigma surrounding this issue. And in most cases, some of those women get away with attempted murder or murder.
November 1988. Reverend Dwight Moore and his fiancée Blanche Taylor are to be married in a few weeks.
September. Well, what else do we have to do?
But something is terribly wrong with the Reverend.
Honey?
It hits him suddenly and is unlike anything he's experienced before.
Please pull over. You're scaring me. No, you don't look okay.
A bout of nausea and dizziness comes on hard and fast.
You don't look too good. No, you don't look okay.
His vision blurs.
No. Dwight, that's enough.
Searing pain steals his breath.
Well, please.
A wave of vicious nausea clenches his stomach.
No, something is...
And Reverend Moore vomits blood.
We gotta get you dog. Come on. We gotta get you.
Blanche rushes her fiancé to the emergency room at Alamance County Hospital.
I need a doctor or nurse. Get the doctor. I need somebody right away, please.
I was scared. I mean, at that point, I was really scared and worried.
Then, on May 13th,
blood cultures came back positive for Staph aureus. Staph aureus can cause low blood pressure, low urine output, and all the signs and symptoms of sepsis. We then thought we knew what was going on.
the bacterial infection is very common and can come from a variety of sources. It could explain the mysterious symptoms. But as doctors were about to learn, the cause of Reverend Moore's disease was anything but common.
And then I get a phone call, and it's the toxicology lab.
The doctors are stunned by the shocking results. In an instant, the ward is on alert.
And we shut down the unit. Nobody in, nobody out.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Dr. Sanders.
Something is terribly wrong with Reverend Moore.
Do you mind if I just take a look at your phone?
There is no time to lose if they hope to protect him from a potential killer. Doctors think they've identified the vicious disease threatening the life of a North Carolina minister.
Anything new?
We'll just take a look at these
A
labs.
toxicological screen comes back
I'm surprised we didn't notice that before.
with terrifying results.
Take a look at his palm, too.
We brought the family in to tell them, talk to his wife, some of his children, and his sister.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Y'all have news?
Yeah, we
The
actually.
doctor then said, I have now something to tell you. And he said that he had the highest levels of arsenic that have ever been seen.
Doctors suspect the Reverend fell ill after being poisoned by a deadly agent, arsenic.
I mean, I remember going, what are you talking about? Arsenic?
We believe that was the cause of all of his problems, starting from the fall of the prior year to his problems at the current time.
We were all just bewildered.
The person can go about getting arsenic.
Everybody wanted to know how, why, how it happened, and nobody had any answers at that point.
All right, what's going on?
The strange symptoms plaguing the minister finally make sense.
Mysterious illness, his stomach's distended.
But how did he get such high levels?
It was a perfect case of arsenic poisoning in that he had infection. Whenever you get arsenic poisoning, your immune system is decreased, and so you get susceptibility to infection. Multiple bouts of nausea and vomiting and abdominal pain. And then he had on his hands something called arsenical pits. He had little pits in the palm of his hands, which were classic for arsenic.
In x-rays, arsenic appears opaque, showing up as a lump in the stomach or GI tract. But arsenic is quickly absorbed into the bloodstream. When surgeons looked inside, the so-called tumors had disappeared.
The levels of arsenic that he had were higher than any seen by the laboratory that did these tests in the United States.
I believe afterwards they said that they had found enough arsenic in the system to kill a horse.
We were stunned, partly at the level of arsenic in him, and partly because our toxicologist had been right in identifying arsenic as a possible cause.
The lab reruns the tox screen, sure they had made a mistake. The results are identical.
Knowing some chemistry, knowing that arsenic is not a highly abundant element in the environment, you know, the only way to get significant concentrations of arsenic is for it to be given to you.
And we said, well, that's one way of getting arsenic, but we're going to check everything. And we'd like to get all those pesticides in that he was using. And they brought in 20 bottles.
Toxicologists examine each and every one of the bottles found around Reverend Moore's home, but come up with something very strange.
We checked every single bottle for arsenic. There was no arsenic in those samples.
The lab told us that there really was no way for this person to get that level of arsenic unless he was purposefully being administered arsenic by someone. We didn't have a specific person or persons in mind who were doing this, but it was pretty apparent that this was probably being done over a long period of time since the fall, and that someone had access to Reverend Moore and was able to give him arsenic, although who that was, we weren't sure.
Dr. Farley, 390, Dr. Farley, 390.
Dr. Sanders and Dr. Cerroti alert security and hospital administrators.
When the hospital realized that he had been intentionally poisoned, they reacted very quickly. Had sitters round the clock. Nobody could go into that room without the sitter there, because she sat there all day and all night.
He was not to have specific contact with either friends or family members until we could determine who was poisoning him.
And Blanche was disturbed about that. Said, there's things we need to discuss, and we have no privacy.
Need to get him back. I get you to talk.
Doctors soon call in the authorities.
Hi.
Hi, Mrs. Moore. I'd like to ask you a couple questions, if I may.
The State Bureau of Investigation showed up very shortly after the doctors had told us.
I'd like to find out some things
And
about
they started questioning.
And my husband's rather busy at church, so.
We were all just like, how? Why? What could Dad have gotten into?
It was obviously total shock. In that kind of situation, acquaintances are the immediate suspects, somebody who has a relationship with you.
The authorities told us that given the amount of arsenic in Reverend Moore, that really only somebody very close to him, like his wife, could be administering those types of doses to him. Yet, when we looked, he seemed to have a wonderful relationship. He had just been married to Blanche. No one in the family or outside the family seemed to think there was a problem in the marriage.
In attempted murder cases, the spouse is always the first suspect. But Blanche seems an unlikely murderer. And detectives find nothing suspicious in her behavior, and no obvious motive for the crime. She has lovingly cared for the Reverend throughout his illness.
I didn't feel like Blanche was looking for somebody who needed a lot of money. I mean, obviously a minister doesn't make a whole lot of money. There was a parsonage that they lived in, and she seemed very comfortable to live in that parsonage next to the church. It's not like she wanted to go out and have Dad buy her some great big lavish house or some expensive car or anything like that. She just seemed down to earth.
I'm just kind of curious. Do you think there's...
But if the person with the most access to the Reverend isn't poisoning him, who could it be?
Animosity or a grudge towards your husband?
Police turn to Blanche for some suggestions.
She felt that a prior girlfriend who had a relationship with Reverend Moore before he got married to Blanche may have reasons after he got married to want to harm him, and that we should contact her in Virginia to find this out.
The would-be killer had to be someone who was close to the Reverend over a period of time.
I really don't think it's a good relationship.
Really, do you feel like...
Blanche expresses concern about a member of the family.
Blanche did try to say that there was bad blood between my father and I, or that there was something broken about our relationship because of prior history.
Have there been any recent occurrences or events in your life?
Hearing conflicting stories, detectives turn to Reverend Moore.
Has died recently?
I can't think of a thing. I can't think of anything.
The minister refuses to believe that either his son or wife could be involved in any crime.
I never had any suspicion, any inkling during any of this period that anyone was trying to do something to me.
He tells detectives about a pleasant trip that he and his wife took to visit his son just weeks before.
How are you?
He's being so good.
I know he is. Look how big he is.
What detectives find interesting is the timing. Shortly after his return home, the attacks began anew.
One Sunday afternoon, Blanche wanted us to go down into the chapel, and then she prayed this beautiful prayer. And I remember particularly one thing she prayed. She didn't want to be selfish just praying for Dwight. She wanted to pray for all the other patients in the hospital.
As Reverend Moore's family stands vigil, they are plagued with one question. Who would want to hurt him?
We wondered where it came from, and each one of us looked at the other one questioning, what's going on, what's going on?
Reverend Dwight Moore struggles for his life as doctors fight the effects of a massive dose of arsenic poisoning. Now that doctors have discovered the mysterious illness killing the Reverend, one question remains. Who was trying to kill him, and why?
Okay.
Investigators contact the prosecutor's office, alerting them to the difficult case in progress. Tracking a clever killer using poison would not be easy.
The psychological profile of a poisoner is not unlike maybe a bomber, in the sense that in poisoning, the perpetrator does not have to confront the victim. They can be kind and loving toward the victim. The victim may think that the person is helping them. It is their caretaker or their nurturer, their nurse, whatever. It's a crime that we see usually committed by women, because women usually don't like to confront people aggressively and physically.
Typically, poisoning is a crime that involves a great deal of calculation and thought. Often the perpetrator spends weeks or months slowly killing the victim. Raymond Reed died. No autopsy was performed.
Clear.
Clear. I wrote the district attorney and said that I thought there was a high likelihood that Mr. Reed had in fact died of arsenic poisoning, and that if we did exhume his body and examine him, that we could make that determination whether in fact that was what had happened to him. And so I did go ahead and write him and recommend that, and he petitioned the judge, and the judge authorized the exhumation. One of the things we're always nervous about is what condition the body is in, because the better the condition, the more likely that our examination is going to be able to produce some meaningful results. Mr. Reed's body was in a very good state of preservation. He had what are called Mies lines, little bands that run across the fingernails on all of his fingers, and they're actually visible on his toes as well. These are seen in arsenic poisoning.
Could this finally be the clue helping to hunt down whoever was trying to kill Reverend Moore?
Hair samples were taken, tissue samples were analyzed, and it was determined that Raymond Reed did in fact die from complications of arsenic poisoning.
Investigators also look at the death of Blanche's first husband.
But when we ran the concentrations of arsenic on his tissues, he had very high levels, and certainly in levels that were associated with toxicity, fatal levels, potentially lethal levels. Didn't seem very logical that 3 people would have encountered lethal or near lethal concentrations of arsenic accidentally. If one person had, then you might be able to accept that perhaps this could be an accident, but 2 people, 3 people, no.
In the end, there was only one logical suspect, one probable killer.
I have a warrant for your arrest for the poisoning.
Blanche Taylor Moore was arrested in 1989, charged with the murder of Raymond Reed. She was convicted and sentenced to death.
Can and will be held against you in a court of law.
Because she had already been convicted for Reed's murder, she was not tried for the attempted murder of Reverend Moore or her first husband.
Of course, we were all shocked, devastated, you might say, to think that a nice lady like that could do that.
Here's something to think about. It was Eve that the serpent used to bring about the downfall of Adam. It was Sarah that the devil used to begin the Ishmaelites' religion, which became, and now is, the worst enemy of God's people. It was Delilah that Satan used to get rid of Samson. It was Jezebel that the devil used to lead Ahab and the whole nation of Israel into apostasy. It was Herodias and her daughter Salome that Satan used to kill John the Baptist. It was a woman, the Roman Catholic apostate church, that the devil used to burn God's people at the stake during the Dark Ages. And in these last days, Satan will use two women, the Roman Catholic Church and apostate Protestantism, to get rid of God's people before Jesus comes. What should a man or a woman do in such a situation? Separation better than apostasy. His best course with this child wife, so overbearing, so unyielding, and so uncontrollable, is to take her home and leave her with the mother who has made her what she is. Though it must be painful, this is the only thing for him to do if he would not be ruined spiritually, sacrificed to the demon of hysterics and satanic imaginings. Satan takes entire control of her temper and will and uses them like desolating hail to beat down every obstruction. Her husband can do her no good, but is doing himself incalculable harm and robbing God of the talents and influence he has given. God has placed the husband at the head of the family, and until Sister D shall learn her place and duties as a wife, it will be best for him not to be connected with her in any way. The wife is to respect and obey, but if she utterly refuses to keep the marriage vow, she will be more and more the sport of Satan's temptations, and if her husband consents to keep her by his side, to wear out his life, he will become discouraged and unfitted for the Lord's service. He is under no obligations to keep one by his side who will only torture his soul. I was shown that he has already been losing his manhood and has been influenced and moulded by his wife. Their marriage was a snare of Satan, priority of God's claims. Sister D is determined to rule or ruin. I was shown that she has so thoroughly yielded herself into Satan's hands that her husband fears for her reason, but he will make one of the gravest mistakes of his life if he permits himself to be controlled by Satan through the device of his wife. I tell you plainly, she is controlled by demons, and if these evil spirits have their way, your liberty, Brother D, your manhood is gone. You are a slave to her caprices. She is just as much possessed by a demon as was the man who tore and cut himself when Jesus cast out the devils. Brother D must let Satan rage and not allow himself to be cut off from religious privileges because his wife desires it. If she runs away, let her go. Even if she threatens to take her own life, do not yield to her wicked demands. Even if she should carry out her threat, it would be better to look upon her silent in death than to allow her to murder not only her own soul but that of her husband, and be the means of destroying many others. Permanent nature of marriage vows. Brother D, you have been terrified by the violence of your wife, but the course for you to pursue is the straightforward path of truth, righteousness, and wisdom, having the fear of God always before you. Satan is already exulting over his success. Sister D, I would not present this matter as I do were there not another life so closely bound up with yours, and the life of one whom God has chosen to be his servant. This marriage ought not to have been, but the step has been taken, and for your husband the work of overcoming is now tenfold more severe than if he had never seen you. Will you think seriously over this question, whether his usefulness shall be destroyed and his life become a failure because of your course? Your husband should not merge his identity in you. The marriage vow that binds the husband to the wife must remain unbroken, but he has vows to his Lord to love him with the whole heart, the undivided affection. Letter 34, 1890.